And welcome back here to the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. Super psyched about this. We interview coaches around the world and they're amazing. I mean, like literally amazing. And it's always really special to uplift and honor their journeys, including last week. If you haven't listened last week, you got to go check out Boo Schexnayder, instant classic, one of our top 5 episodes ever already in the week. And so if you haven't heard Boo Schexnayder yet, hit pause. Honestly, my guess this week he'll be okay with it. But go back, listen to Boo Schexnayder, and then come back and check out today's guest. So help me welcome, super excited for this. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Ryver Morrow. Ryver, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
Man, I'm sitting here in our offices. It's cold, so I'm
is.
not real, you and I will learn. He and I have a lot of similarities and commonalities here. So I don't like the cold, of course. But, I'm in here in the office interviewing another great person, not a coach this time, but we're going to learn about some great coaches in your life. And I'm getting paid for it, man. So it's really awesome, man. It's really good. It's really good. How are you doing today, man?
Not too bad. Just catching up from being out of town. And like you said, cold. I didn't know frost could be that thick on my windshield this morning. I thought it snowed, and it was just frost. It was just ice. But
if you're up north, you're going to laugh. We're going to learn here in just a second where Mr. Morrow is from. But yeah, there's no frost down. Oh, it is frost. That's it though. Just frost.
Yeah, it's never that thick.
One of the things I wanted to ask before we get into your track and field background. So you have a unique name. And so people have already read this and they probably read your name 100 times wrong until I just said your name was Ryver. How do people pronounce your name sometimes?
Ryver is definitely the most common.
Ryver.
I get Ryver and Ryver occasionally to where it's impressive. I'm like, oh, thank you. And but yeah, so that Y was dropped in there by my parents to have a why not you, no excuses mentality reminder for the rest of my life.
Is that right?
Yep.
So it was intentional, not just like, oh, I want to make, unique name, which Ryver alone would have been right. Because I can only think of one other Ryver, right? Ryver Phoenix. I don't even know. You're too young. I don't even know. You know who Ryver Phoenix was?
It comes up a lot.
Okay, sure. But I can't think of another Ryver.
Yeah, I've heard of a few. I've only met one in person, and that was a big deal. It took me 21 years to meet someone. But
R.I. or R.Y.?
R.I.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you might be the only R.Y. Ryver
that I've heard of.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. There are a million Mikes. There's only one Ryver though. I love it.
Here.
Yeah, exactly. So Ryver, let's get started, man. Let's talk about your track and field background. Where does track start from you? Are you an age group kid, a high schooler? Where did you start doing track?
So I started doing track in 8th grade, and I went to a small school to where if you breathed, you were an athlete, and if you were athletic, you played every sport. So football, basketball, and track were my middle school sports, and so track was at the time more to stay in shape for the other two. And I had siblings at school. We all rode together. If one had a spring sport, then we all picked up a spring sport. That way you weren't sitting around for a couple hours. And my sister was on track. So
is that right? Oh, that's cool. Now we were joking about the frost. Tell us where 8th grade is. What state?
Georgia.
We're in the state of Georgia. So now you know about the frost and the snow. And yes, we will. If we're still have Ryver once we get through this winter here in Illinois, we know we've got him. He's going to be with us for a long time. We just got to get through this first winter, man. Have you ever experienced a winter before, snow and all that?
I think I've seen a total of 5 inches combined in my whole life.
Oh my.
Yep.
Okay, that'll be January 1st probably. Okay, so you're doing 8th grade track. Siblings are doing spring sports, so you automatically are doing a spring sport. You're our I forgot to totally introduce you, Ryver. Ryver is our new inside sales rep, specializing in the pole vault. Spoiler alert, he was a pole vaulter. So were you doing, when you joined track to stay in shape for these other sports, were you automatically a pole vaulter or did that grow?
So I wanted to do pole vault, but with basketball season, I didn't get out to the track until March. And so by then it was just kind of late on all that. And so I would do all the other events, the running, throwing, jumping, because I'm fortunate at the time I was this big, 6 foot, in middle school. And so they were like, oh, I could go medal in any event.
Right.
High school stopped her there. But so I started pole vaulting sophomore year when I didn't make the basketball team. Not saying I'm MJ or anything, but same origin story. So
same origin story, except for the follow-up where he made the team.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you don't make the team sophomore year, and it's your chance to finally do pole vault. So you'd kind of always wanted to do pole vault. Why was that? Was there Like did, there's a lot of stories of watching the 96 Olympics and seeing the Olympic winner, or, my dad was a pole vaulter. Why was pole vaulting like this magnet for you?
It just looked a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then one of my sister's good friends that we were always with when wrapping up track practice and all, he was our school's first pole vaulter. And we were young track program. And so was always watching him and the other guy do it. So always wanted to try it there.
So I've had Jeff Hartwig on the podcast and other vaulters. My favorite question for a pole vaulter is always, do you remember the first time, the first practice, the first like real, like, you planted and your feet came off the ground practice? Do you remember yours?
Oh yeah.
Was it like the most exhilarating thing in the world, or was it like, oh my God, is there still a slot in the 4x1 for me?
So I had a very traditional coach and for my first coach. And so it was nothing but technique, run, how to move the pole while you run. So first month was nothing but walking. Then we started running.
Wow.
Then I started sand vaulting, old school. Like I'm talking this, he had been coaches to the 70s. So we learned like they did in the 70s. I didn't touch a pit for 3.5 months. And it was the day before the first meet of the season.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't believe as a youngster that would instill confidence in you. Was it like scary? Like, oh man, there's a meet tomorrow. We're finally going into a pit.
I kind of felt better than landing in sand. Once you start doing that, from anywhere over 4 feet, landing in sand starts to knock the wind out of you. I don't know how those old guys did it.
Well, they're just tougher than we were.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever. Yeah. And I put myself in the young crowd there. I don't know if you noticed, tougher than we. Yeah. So how did it go as you're going through your first season? You're finally getting to jump in a pit. Did you do any good?
So first meet was a nice straight pole, 8 feet. And then by the end of the season, I made it to regionals. I scored points and I started bending the pole. And I remember inverting the meet before regional and feeling upside down and realizing like, oh, this is kind of starting to click. So that was kind of when I realized like, all right, I'm going to focus on this the next 2 years and see where it takes me from there.
We recently had John Weaver from down in the state of Mississippi on the podcast, and he was a pole vaulter, and his first, I believe he said 3 meets, all no heights. So you're already ahead of the game from Mr. John Weaver, and he ended up having a good career, and now he's a state champion coach down in Mississippi. So you're ahead of the game right there. So take us through. You said you had an old school coach. What was coach like did you have him your whole time, and was he like a big inspiration for you, or was it more? Did you get coaching elsewhere, like kind of the mentorship of coaching side here?
So he was a great coach to start out, learning the basics and learning the technical side of things, the terminology, and really understanding the movements of the pole, not just running down the runway and trying to stab a stick into the ground and see how high I go.
Wild banshee pole vaulting, yeah.
And so he really taught the plant phase of the vault very well. And then I started going to clubs, looking for indoor facilities in the winter, bad weather. And he would go with us to a lot of those. And then eventually I moved on to train with a UGA alumni and a couple of clubs in the area. And he focused more on my run and my top end of the vault than the plant.
So you mentioned other events before you got cut from basketball. Were you still doing other events, or did you become pole vaulter only?
So because we were a young track program, I had our school hurdle record. And,
nice.
So when I went to state my junior year and I got 4th. And so that's when I was like
in pole vault.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so I got on the bus going home. And I looked at my coach. I was like, hey, I want to focus on pole vault. I don't want to do the other events. I loved hurdles until I started pole vaulting. I was like, never mind. This is way more fun. And so I told my coach, we were a small team and all. So I was like, all right, I'm going to recruit some of my friends. I'm going to teach them all how to run hurdles because we didn't have a hurdle coach. We had a sprints coach. We borrowed a pole vault coach and a throws coach, and we had a distance coach. So I told them, I was like, once one of them breaks my record, I'm done. I'm not running hurdles anymore.
That's awesome.
And so 2 meets into senior year, one of them broke my hurdle record. So strictly vault from then on.
I've heard of people like that recruiting their own 4x1 team. Like, oh, we don't have enough. I'll go recruit kids coach. I've never heard anybody recruiting themselves out of events so they could go focus on another event. Did these kids that you recruited know that's what you were recruiting them for? Do they think, oh, this guy really wants to be on the team with me? That's so awesome.
No, I mean, I think they probably did. They knew I loved pole vault more than the hurdles, but and then by the time it was all said and done, like I said, we'd only had a track team like 6 years, and we were trying to build a track at the time and fundraising and everything. And my high school graduating class had 81 kids. We had 41 on the track team from our senior class between men's and women's.
Wow.
So our senior track banquet was half our graduating class sitting there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. You know, we talk about, I say, you know, this is the grumpy, get on your lawn and shake your fist at the kids question here. But we talk a lot about kids today, and, you know, we say today, but by the way, it was the same when kids on my team and me growing up, that they don't know track athletes, like the professionals and such. What kind of, be truthful here now, what kind of high school right now, track athlete were you? Were you the kind of guy that knew who the gold medalist was in the pole vault, or were you just really like, oh, I know who the best guy in the county was? Like, where were you on that side of?
Yeah, I've always been kind of a nerd about things to where I knew most of the American vaulters, especially that was right after 2016, Sam Kendrick's run down the runway, hear the anthem, throw his pole down and salute. So I mean, that was everywhere. And me and him were on the same build. So that was always like, oh, I can be Sam Kendrick's one day. And then also I started doing the summer circuit, the club circuit. And so once I got into that, you start meeting everyone in the Southeast. And you start seeing some of those elites at your meets, like the Dolphin Street Vault meet. I saw all the elites jumping 18 feet there.
Yeah.
So, and then got an opportunity at one point to go up to Knoxville and train with Tim Mack when he was still there, and train with Ryland. So met a lot of those like gold medalists and those 19 footers that were in the Southeast.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it's vaulting is different or if it's the age that's different. Meaning, you know, you're talking about 16. Well, you could have Googled anybody or anything, you know, top pole vaulters, and it would have popped up, you know, back in 96, old man here, right? Like there was no internets, right? I don't know. Until the Olympics came on TV, I had no clue who the top people were, you know, until something popped up on TV, basically. So you get ready to graduate, you're going towards graduation, graduation. You were fourth as a junior. What were you thinking for college?
Yeah, so I started looking to do pole vault in college after that fourth place. And I also stopped doing football that year. So that was another big thing. My head track coach was my linebacker coach. And so that was not a popular decision on one side. On the other side,
welcome to the South.
Yes. And so I started going on visits going into the winter, and wasn't heavily recruited. It was going into my third year vaulting, and so I had to do a lot of reaching out on my own, networking, the same way that people do trying to get jobs these days. It's you got to go out there and put yourself out. And so I was looking at mostly D3 and D2 schools in the area, and then finally I signed very late. I signed at sectionals, and I was 2 weeks from graduating, and when I put pen to paper, and so my school guidance counselor was always like, where are you going?
Right.
Like, I'll figure it out. I'm talking to people. I'll figure it out. And and then that's when I ended up signing with Coastal. The
great Coastal Carolina, who just won their bowl game.
They did.
That was awesome, man. Hey, better than Troy, man. We didn't even make a bowl game. So it was a back and forth. I didn't know Coastal was going to pull it out, to be honest with you.
I was not, flashbacks to last year when we lost in the last drive. So last field came out to a field goal. So I was getting nervous after last year.
So, and what were you thinking as you're going into college? You're going to go to Coastal, great school. What were you thinking career-wise at this point? Was coaching at all in your mind, or were you thinking something completely different?
I've always thought I would end up coaching pole vault on the side, running a club. And I think senior year, I did a statistics or some math. I had 3 math classes. So one of them, my project was to design something like that. And so I have a club model that I made.
Oh, really? Wow.
Of how I would price out equipment, term of how long the equipment would last, when I would need to be able to buy more, how many poles I would need, and everything like that, how many kids I would need to be operational. So you just started your sophomore year vaulting. You're into your third year, not really even third year over. And like, you've really, this sounds like, you know, you've gone
there's no dipping your toe in the water. You're submerged here. You're doing your senior project, the math and statistics project on a club, a club model. So you're kind of, you talked about you've always kind of been a nerd about it. Remember when that used to be a bad word? Like now I'm like, man, someone calls me a nerd, that feels kind of good, now you're doing these projects. So you really like, you're full in on pole. You're a pole vaulter.
Oh yeah. Somewhere out there, I'm looking for the video clip because I know they filmed it. Our valedictorian of my senior class roasted me at graduation and said, because I think I introduced him, and he was like, yeah, it's surprising you didn't mention pole vault. If you were ever within 5 miles of River, you knew he was a vaulter. And so I've been looking for that now that I work here to be like, oh my goodness. So I got to find that clip.
You've got to find that clip. I love that. If you're within 5 miles of River, he vaults.
Yep.
I love that.
And he was still is very, very intelligent. He went into Georgia Tech with 2 years of school done. I'm curing cancer at some point out there soon, I'm sure. And but never talked much and was very quiet. And so anytime he told a joke, it was, oh my goodness, that was hilarious.
He talked, right?
And so it got a big roar, and I was like, oh,
that's funny. So talk to us about vaulting at Coastal Carolina. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures and it looks kind of pretty and picturesque. How was it going to school there and vaulting?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was definitely 3 years I will never regret. It was a beautiful teal track and warm weather. Would vault shirtless in January. I think I wore a sweatshirt my last year, 1 week of training, and good weather always, and warm and supportive coaches that made sure that what I was aiming for was what my focus was on. And so they allowed me to change my practice schedule to meet my academic and my extracurricular schedule. And I don't think there's a lot of coaches out there that allow an athlete to be that flexible with things like that.
And who was your vault coach there?
Ben Yoakum. Benjamin Yoakum. Yep.
Now I know Ben, so Ben's not even listening. I just guarantee it. So you can speak freely. He'll never hear this. How was he as a vault coach?
Very, very supportive.
No, you have to be. You can be truthful. It's okay. No, I know Ben does a great job. So you like when you look back, got it. A lot of fond memories of Ben being your coach.
Oh yeah, yep. We still talk probably once a month. We'll either call or text, and definitely like a friend of mine now.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's not always the case. So that's precious to hear that. That's cool. Now you mentioned 3 years at Coastal. Did you graduate in 3 years?
Yes.
Really? So what did you end up majoring in?
Marketing.
Okay. And why marketing?
Dad was a marketing guy. I always liked business. I like numbers and statistics, and I like speaking. I like meeting people. I like numbers and statistics, but I didn't want to be stuck behind a computer doing finance and investing where you're not actually out talking to people and being out there. And so I like travel a lot. And so marketing and sales were the type of careers where I was like, that is the best of all of that for me.
And you said 3 years, but I thought, I could be wrong, that you have a master's.
I do not. I've been looking.
Okay.
When I graduated, it was either find a job now or go into my master's.
Or go to like MBA or something like that.
And
okay.
I have 2 years of track left that I'm burning through right now.
Yeah, got it. Okay. That's what I couldn't remember. He didn't lie on his resume, people. So it wasn't that. It was just an old man memory here. Absolutely. Okay. And so after 3 years, you got your undergrad in marketing. And so you started looking for jobs. What were you looking for? Were you looking to go into coaching at that point? Or I guess you probably would have just stayed and did your last 2 years if you're looking at that. What were you looking at for like jobs?
I've always wanted to go towards the sports world, whether it was sports apparel, sports teams, sports agency, somewhere in that. And so I was networking with a lot of NBA, NFL, hockey, and college teams as well. So I started networking with them, calling executives of marketing and sales and interviewing them and doing cold calls basically. And so was always looking to go into sports.
So you're doing a lot of that, and at the same time, you're doing lots of interns. You worked for a brewery in their marketing and things like that. How in the world did we land you here at Gill Athletics? How did you find this position?
So I was in a business program that was all about how to cold call, how to put yourself out there, how to make these connections, emails, set up meetings to introduce yourself to companies, and LinkedIn training. And then I saw an Instagram post.
Mm.
And so that was always the big joke in my business group that I was in, was everybody else went like up to Wall Street and went through rounds of interviews. And
All right.
I found an Instagram post and I applied through it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. The power of social media, man.
Yep.
You know, you and I have had lots of conversations about that. That's really cool. So when you started, you saw the post that we were hiring for a sales rep, what interested you about it? What was kind of like, oh yeah. This, like, I'm thinking about sports. Well, this is it. 'Cause this, you know, it's a little different. It's a sales job, but there's other marketing jobs and, you know, sports administration jobs, things like that. This is definitely a unique niche aspect inside of sports, specifically track and field.
So it meant a lot of things for me, where first off, I was looking for a job in the middle of COVID.
Oh yeah, sure.
I would talk to a
point.
lot of people, especially these sports teams. Most of them want you to enter on ticket sales, especially coming straight out of college, being 21 at the time. They were like, all right, we're not putting you in the marketing department for the Brooklyn Nets.
Right.
So it's like, you can sell tickets for us. And so started looking at that, but then they were like, hey, no one's selling tickets, no one's in the arenas.
Oh wow.
So they were all like, yeah, we're not hiring right now, but this is what we do. This is where, if you want to call us in a year, we'll see where we're at if stadiums are open. And so first off, you guys were hiring. That helps.
Yeah,
But
that
then,
is true.
I knew a lot of people in the track world. I was always, when I was not vaulting at a meet, I was with one of my coaches, helping them out, catch marks, steps, measurements. And so met a lot of other coaches through that. So I was a pole vault nerd. So between hiring and being a pole vault nerd was a great opportunity.
So you've been with us now for 6 months, roughly. Yeah, a little bit over. It's December.
Yeah,
like June 1.
closer to 7 now.
Yeah. May 1, or I can't remember if it was May 1 or June 1, right around there. You know, 6 months. We always say with new hires here at Gill Athletics that you really don't know the job until a year has passed, right? Because that means you've gone through, you know, a little bit of the downtime, the fall semester roughly, and then the just the hydrant water, just, you know, trying to drink from the fire hose type of attitude during track season, which you're now just going to get started here in January. But in the first 6 months, what has been like, as you come here and, you know, and starting to become our pole vault expert here, what has been like, you're like, oh man, I didn't know this was part of the job. This is awesome. Or has there been any? That's not fair to say that there is one. What if there has been one, what has it been?
I think the things that like have made me most excited was talking to all the different elites that we work with, either our own elites or just other elites in the track world, where I've got contacts now where when I tell my friends back at my college team, I'm like, hey, I have so-and-so on my phone now. They're like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And they try to get numbers. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Can't do that. Right. But and so that's been very exciting. And then just learning the other side of everything. I knew the athlete side of it. I kind of knew some of the coaching aspects, and now like seeing the full coaching side and the equipment side and the manufacturing, like the pole room, watching them make poles was super cool for me.
Right. Yeah. What so, you know, pole vaulting is a pretty important event for us here at Gill Athletics. When you think about pole vault boxes, all the way up to obviously the pits, the poles, standards, training aids for vaulting. I mean, you know, if they ever got rid of the pole vault, that's a big chunk of Gill Athletics, right? So it takes a lot of shot puts to make up a pole vault pit or pole vault poles, right? You're involved in so much. So because it's so important, there's so much aspect to it, from our team pacer clubs. You mentioned our team pacer elites, just general inquiries from coaches calling saying, hey, I've got a kid joining the team this year. I don't know what poles to get. What aspect have you, like, I'm gonna call it glommed on the most? Like you're just like, oh yeah, like I really want to help grow X.
I think the clubs I like helping, especially those that I see that pop up in their young clubs, because I've been a part of those young clubs where it was only 10 kids a practice, borrowing facilities, moving around to what facility lets you train there that week. And so helping them try to find the best equipment for their budget and for what they're able to do at the time, and make sure that they can create something long lasting that stands, has been really cool. And then learning the nuances of a pole, the different links, the different flexes, how those relate, the different materials, the history of it has been really cool. And wanting to grow that knowledge and grow that industry amongst the pole vault community, to where we know a pole gets us in the air. how much do we actually know about what's in that pole and what the difference between that pole and another pole is.
Did you, you have I imagine you had a head start than I did. Did you know how poles were made before you got here?
I had a good idea. I'd seen the how it's made video.
Yeah. If you haven't seen that, go on YouTube and just inside of YouTube search how it's made, vaulting poles or pole vault. It's actually pro tip, actually has it for javelins as well. But yeah, it runs through the whole process. It's quite amazing. You see, so you had a head start because you'd seen the video. The videos, once you see the house made, you kind of get the gist of it, really. I was not a vaulter and didn't really coach pole vaulters. I had no idea. I thought they just came in really long tubes and you like, oh, you need a 10-footer, chop it off at 10 foot. Oh, you need an 11.6, chop it. I had no idea how it started. So you were everybody who's ever bought a vaulting pole from me right now is laughing like, oh my God, I bought a vaulting pole from this idiot. Yeah. This is why we hire pole vault experts, because you don't want me around it. You don't want me around it. So what have you done so far in the first 6 months? Travel wise, I know you and I, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit, just got back from the USTFCCCA Convention. Have you done any other shows or anything up to this point?
I've done one or two local Illinois things, and then I went down to Greenville, down to the AD show down there.
Yeah. What do you think about that aspect of meeting coaches, and really coaches that you've never met before, and they're varying levels of pole vaulting? I'm sure even with just those few travels there, you've met some coaches who it's their first year, they have no idea. Maybe they think like me, just chop it, and possibly have even met coaches at this point. It was like, oh, wow, I thought I knew a little bit about pole vaulting because I work for Gill. This guy has been doing it forever. How's that been, meeting different coaches around specifically Illinois, North Carolina at this point?
It's been pretty cool, just kind of seeing that side of it, and thinking back to what I went through, to where I had pole vault coaches that taught me the terminology and all, and then I had my two school coaches were not vaulters. So when they would come over and be like, hey, I heard you need a pole. Just one, right? Like,
Right.
oh, that's funny. And so when I meet a coach, you can kind of tell pretty quick of what they say. Like, hey, I need a pole for my 3 athletes. You're like, hopefully you do. But then or when they come to you like, hey, I'm looking for this length, this series, this match, I got these gaps, and you're like, oh, okay, so you've been around the block a time or two.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just came back from really one of the best weeks in the whole year, the USTFCCCA Convention down in Orlando. I already missed it, by the way. What did you think about that?
That was really exciting.
Why's that?
First off, seeing coaches not so suit and tie, where they're around their athletes or around their administration, like you see them at meets, to where you don't see who they are. You see who the professional side of them is, as much as like I went to college in a suit, but then still seeing a coach in his polo and his slacks at a meet is different than a coach around other coaches that he trained with or went to school with or has been coached by. So seeing them in their natural element was cool. And then putting names to faces of who I've been working with over the phone and over email, and also coaches that I recognize, to where when I saw them, they looked at me and they're like, you're familiar, but I don't know what you're doing here.
Like when you'd go to them as an athlete, like you had seen them, like maybe you knew the Georgia Tech pole vault coach, but you never talked to him. But now it's like, oh, no, now we need to talk.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. And they were like, yeah, wait, I recognize you, but how? Not through Gill. Wow.
Not through Gill and not through coaches.
Yeah.
So what are you doing here?
That's really cool. Was there anything that surprised you about the convention? I tried to prepare you as much as possible, but it's really an unpreparable show. 1,500 coaches from around the country, all different events, all different walks of life, all different organizations. It's a 24/7. Yeah, I think I remember specifically telling you, it's a 24/7 job at that point, for that week. Was there anything that surprised you that you're like, man, I didn't realize this was going to happen, or I'd see this person or whatnot?
I don't think I was too surprised by much. I've done shows and my other internships and all, to where I had a good idea of what a large show looks like. I think just seeing it track specific was the first, but probably having coaches where I knew they knew way more than me come up and ask a question. Sure. I was like, that's a great question. Let me talk to some other people. I cannot answer that on the spot. Like we had a discus question. I was like, I'm learning discus.
Right.
I know poles. I'm
Right.
learning discus. You've been coaching discus 30 years. More than likely, I'll have to get that answer from someone else.
Right.
So.
Right. What was there anything that you, when I say I'm asked the same kind of question, but in the other side. So was there anything that surprised you negatively? Like, oh man, I didn't realize every coach went to bed at 8 o'clock at night. If you've been to the convention, you know that's not true. But anything that you're just like, man, I didn't realize.
Not so much negative. You learn how small the track world is. Like I knew it was small.
How so? What do you mean?
Every coach has either been coached by a coach, or they trained with a coach, or was teammates with a coach. And so I think that Six Sigma is more like 3 in the coach world of track and field. And I knew that that's kind of how the vault world was, but now seeing that the coaching world was something new, but I don't think it's negative, but just seeing it's a lot closer than you realize.
What now? Okay. Fancy marketing boy here. You said Six Sigma and you think maybe it's more 3. I've heard of Six Sigma. I haven't read any books or
6
anything.
degrees of separation. I think that was
I was going to ask, is it 6 degrees of like Kevin Bacon here? So how do you connect Mike Holloway to Ben Yoakum at Coastal Carolina?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Can you do that? Can you connect?
I'd have to go talk to one of them to figure that connection out. But yeah, 6 degrees of separation. Yeah, that's the correct term.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought I'd like to learn, so I thought you're gonna teach me something new there.
Error and,
it's like management and manufacturing practices and such. Yeah, there's like belts to it, black belt and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Which I think is funny because my kid's in Taekwondo and I'm like, really? There's belts for Six Sigma? I don't really know what you guys are copying here, but and what's next for you? You said you like traveling, so I assume you still like traveling through North Carolina and Orlando. What's coming up for you?
I'm going down to Belton for the Pole Vault Expo.
All right.
Really excited about that because I got to do that Southeast region circuit and never went to a meet with more than 3 pits, and 3 I thought was a lot.
3 is a lot. Yeah.
And, so seeing that they're setting up for Belton already, and I think they've had 6 or 7 pits down there.
Yeah.
And being one of the largest pole vault meets in the world. And so really excited to get down there over New Year's. And some warm Texas weather.
Exactly. They'll think it's cold, but the great Jack Chapman, man. I love, if you know Jack Chapman, what I'm about to say next is you probably would have had the same sentiment as me, but one of the really nicest, greatest people, and really what a giver. I mean, just a real giver, not only to the sport of track and field and the event of pole vaulting, but just people in general. He's just one of the nicest people. All right. You haven't met Jack yet, right?
No.
I can't wait for you to meet him, man. He's pretty special. He's a really one of the good guys, as they say, in this sport. So Belton, do you even know where Belton's at? Do you know where you're going?
It's outside of Dallas, and I want to say it's halfway between Dallas and San Antonio, or
Dallas and Austin. Yeah. There's nothing there. I shouldn't say that. It's it's a little. I live in Champaign, Illinois, right? But there's no University of Illinois there. But it's great. The people are awesome. The event is awesome. There'll be tons of. You'll be in your native habitat, man. There'll be 700 vaulters in you, so you'll be down south in Georgia. We would say you'd be like a pig in slop. Yeah, you'll be just very, very happy. Yeah. What other? Do you know what the rest of your schedule looks like as far as travel and stuff?
I've got the Ohio coaches show, the Illinois coaches clinic or show, and Wisconsin going up there, and so getting the Midwest tour.
Yeah. Well, you get 2 of the greatest track clinics there are, Wisconsin and Ohio, man. Holy cow. Illinois is no slouch itself, but Wisconsin and Ohio are huge and awesome. That's really good.
I'm excited for the Wisconsin cheese. My whole family loves cheese. And so I've had like true squeaky cheese curds like once in my life. And so I've always been like chasing those and never found the squeaky ones since.
They're there,
so
man. You got to bring some back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. As long as you do that.
I'm going to bring a lot back.
Okay, good.
Take 2 bags.
Nice. What, and you're also, we're the NCAA sponsors for track and field. Which one are you going to be in charge of and leading for us?
So I'll be doing D3s. So I'll be down at, JDL, and then for indoors, and then to Spire for outdoor. And so really excited for that. I know a lot of those coaches that because a lot of my age of coaches are starting to get into it. And so a lot of them have picked up on D3 staffs. And so I'm really excited to see a lot of them.
Yeah. What I'm sure during your interview process, we told you about the NCAA sponsorship. And it's one thing to be told about, like, yeah, you're going to be responsible for X, Y, and Z. And you're like, yeah, sure. Just give me a job. You're just trying to get a job. Right. And now you're starting to go through some planning meetings. We've been planning now for probably 2 months for this upcoming season. What's got you excited about these, the JDL and the Spire and the D3 NCAA championships?
I think seeing it all come together, and then the social aspect of it, the social event, if we're able to do that. I know things these days are always up in the air, but seeing it all come together. I never went to a nationals meet as much as I wanted to. I blame COVID. We'll say that's what it was.
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with how high or not high I jumped. It was all because of COVID taking half of my college years.
I love it. Whatever works. Whatever works. Yeah. I like to blame COVID that we got you here. So that's a good blame. Like, thank COVID brought some positivity here. We got Ryver Morrow here in the house, man. Well, I'm excited for you for Division III. It's actually the one championship I haven't been to yet. Been to plenty of Division I's. I got to go to Division II for the first time last year. COVID messes me up too. I can't remember if it was last year. I think it was last year. But it's really amazing. Like, Division III is the example that I use about how coaching matters and where maybe some of our better coaches are at, because, D3, no athletic scholarship, right? So most of these athletes in the Division III that you see are not recruited by Division I, Division. Some certainly are, because Division III has a lot to offer beyond just an athletic scholarship. But most of them were not your, state champs and 5 stars or whatever they do for football and whatnot. But go look at the D3 national results. Holy cow.
Yes.
Like, dude, these guys are amazing. Of course, in the pole vault, North Central is always a big part of that pole vaulting. Division III, many champs that are huge. I mean, jumping big, like they'd be in, scored in Division I championships, man. It's quite amazing. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. Are you really looking forward to it?
Oh yeah. And kind of to that point, I was a bubble D1 athlete to where I got D1 because I marketed myself and really made those connections. But a lot of my friends that were all jumping the same height, some went D1, some went D2, some went D3. I looked at a lot of D3 schools, and there's a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I was an academic student first. And so a lot of schools I was looking at, I didn't get D1 money. And so, yes, D3 doesn't offer those athletic scholarships, but depends on what your goal is through college. If it's to do track while you're there, to continue it as long as you can, then 100% that's great. If it's to do track to pay for things, yeah. But there's a lot of good academic D3 schools that a lot of people don't know about until they start looking at doing track and going D3 and like, oh my goodness, I've never heard of the school an hour from my house. That's one of the top academic schools in the country.
Did you, again, you grew up around the 2016 era, so, maybe there's no excuses because of the internet and stuff like that. Did you know about a lot of the options around? You grew up in Georgia, where you got a bunch of great schools like Shorter and Oglethorpe, some of the smaller schools. Did you know about them, or did you know more about the Division I football school? Like Coastal had a football team, and of course Clemson and South Carolina, et cetera, like that.
I knew about a lot just because my school sent a lot of D3 athletes. We were a young athletic program to where you were a D1 athlete. That was a big deal. You're probably the only one that year.
Right.
And so I knew a lot of the Georgia D3 schools because of that, and like Barry.
Barry, that's another one I was thinking of. Yeah.
And but then I learned a lot more when I was looking at recruiting. I would pull up a conference meet. I would look at the results, say, all right, I'm in that mix. And then I would look at the schools that had vault programs, and then I'd start emailing those coaches. And so I learned a lot of schools I'd never heard of through that process.
Yeah. Have you learned more since you've been here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're like, who, where, what?
Yep.
Yeah. It always, I love, it was like this happened at USTFCCA when I'll surprise a coach that I either know their mascot or even how to pronounce their name. Bemidji State came up, and I was like, oh, Bemidji. And they're like, man, no one ever says that. I was like, oh yeah, my job is to know who Bemidji State, everybody, not just, the big name schools or whatnot. So I love learning all those different schools. Well, I know, River, you don't know what you don't know, but what is there? You've only been there 6 months. You're a pup. I tease you a lot about that. Not too much though. Don't worry about it. He's here. The weather's going to get him before I get him. Trust me. But what are you most interested in, like learning more of or exploring as you move through your role here at Gill Athletics?
I think how coaches have to work their athletic budgets. Track and field's historically been one of those underfunded sports. And so learning how those coaches manipulate those numbers. I'm a business guy. I like seeing that side of things.
Right.
And understanding what takes precedent, how they stretch those dollars, and what they can do to make that the most efficient use of their money, and what they can do to, whether it's either equipment or it's we don't travel to as far of meets and things like that when it comes to those smaller schools. And so helping coaches navigate that as I learn it is very exciting. There's, like you said, there's those young coaches out there that they're figuring out as I go. And then there's other coaches like, no, this is how I do things because this is what works. Like we might host half of our own meets as home meets so that we can get nicer equipment and not have to travel.
Right.
So, yeah.
And what's got you excited? I mean, again, I know you don't know what you don't know. And we talked about some of the great clinics you're going to. Of course, going to NCAA Division IIIs is a big deal. Anything else that's got you just excited for the upcoming season?
I think the Team Pacer Elites.
Yeah.
I've been really excited to work with this program and see where we can take that. And the social media side of things, looking at all these, now that indoor season started, looking at all these kids that are out there doing things and making sure that that's being seen. And so,
and you play a vital role already in 6 months. Let me tell you what I wasn't doing my first 6 months here, man. But a vital role in our social media. What channels do you specifically oversee and are most active in?
Most active for sure on Instagram. Twitter, I've been learning since I've been here. I've done way more Twitter in 6 months than I have in my entire life. That's for sure. Facebook, I'm getting more familiar with. I think that kind of wasn't my generation. And so, I mean, it's owned by Facebook or Meta, but just getting more used to being on it more. And then I've started our Team Pacer TikTok. And so that's, that's even below my generation. I'm late to that. But yeah, so Instagram the most, but then all the big four now. So
very cool. And if you want to see or interact or you just kind of get to know what River's doing on those social media channels, down in the show notes we have all of our social media. I don't think I've added TikTok on there. I need you to, maybe we'll go in the office and take a look. I might need to update because if it's below you, if it's younger than you, that means I can barely spell TikTok, man. So maybe we need to look at that and add that into the show notes as well. So, well, man, River, we're just so excited to have you here. It's always an honor to be able to interview some of my teammates here. We've had Jennifer Vanderlot, our customer service manager, Brian Carell, our field service manager. We're going to have other teammates here. It really is. It's so much fun to be in the greatest sport in the world, track and field, talking shop with people that are in the sport, man. I had a blast with you down in Orlando at USTFCCCA. Did an amazing job, did a great job connecting with the coaches in the convention and around the country. So kudos to you for what you've picked up in 6 months. You're ahead of the game of where I was in 6 months. That's for sure. That's not saying a lot, but it's saying something. All right. But we are really, just tickled pink to have you on the team and really look forward to seeing your development. What's the best way if someone is listening right now and they're like, oh man, I remember River. I jumped against him and beat him or something. I don't know. You probably beat a lot of people, but or a coach says, man, I want to know, I've got this burning question about pole vault. What's the best ways of getting hold of you?
I mean, my Gill email, if it's a work-related question or like you said, a coach reaching out, is rmorrow@gillathletics.com. And then if you email the sales email, it'll get kicked to me if it's relevant to me. And then call the 800 number and ask for River, Ryver, I'll funnel them all to me.
They all go to you, just R something. Okay, that's River. Yeah. So I'm gonna put you on the spot. You said the 800 number. What is our 800 number?
800-637-3090.
He passed the test, ladies and gentlemen. River, man, thank you for joining me today. I know we're busy. We're trying to catch up and stuff, but it was really important for me to have our listeners learn who you are, get to know you a little bit better, and just know that, with the great capable people that they have here at the factory, helping them with all of their pole vault and other things. You're a discus expert now as well. So the pole vault and all the other events.
And I did throw discus for like a month and a half.
That's a story for another day right there.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. This is the end of season 2. I am just amazed at, this passion project that started in January of 2020. And here we are, December of 2021, still kicking it, man. It's awesome. So this ends season 2. I wanted to end season 2 on a bang. You should feel
Season finale.
Yeah,
Wow,
you should.
okay. Wow.
We got to leave some kind of cliffhanger. I don't know what it would be,
okay.
but it's a big deal to be the end of season 2. We got some really cool changes coming up for season 3. I can already tell you the first episode of season 3 is Dr. Matthew Raidbard. He wrote the book on leadership. I just wanted to bring more value to you on leadership. So he's episode 1 for season 3. And we already got amazing coaches lined up. We are going to continue the mission of uplifting and honoring track coaches around the world. And I'm just so humbled that you'd be here to partake in it. So thanks again for joining us. We'll check you out next week on season 3. Thanks for being here.